Welcome to Corporate Art, an IA 4.0 corporate media house. And as we are going through the transitions in the industry and especially the energy domain, there are a lot of things that are happening around. And specifically today, we are going to talk about the solar power industry and the manufacturing. So we do have a couple of questions, and to answer them, we have with us Mr. Vivek Srivastava. He's a global professional with a very versatile experience of 3 decades in the industry, leading in petroleum, mobility, manufacturing, new energies. And he has done multiple leadership hats in the strategy, business development, marketing, sales, operations, and project management with the several First in India initiatives. He is currently leading the transformation journey of India as the foremost solar manufacturing and service company to the leadership in the new energy with a global footprint. And as a group CEO of Waaree Group, which is the leading manufacturer of solar power in India, he is also leading diverse committed talent pool. And to grow them, he has accelerated both pace and vertical in the revenues, EBIDTAs, and all the domains horizontally. He's committed to the leadership in ESGs and sustainability. We welcome you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much, sir, for being here. We actually are obliged to have you today with your versatile experience. It will be good to interact with you and have such questions answered from you. Thank you for being here today.
I look forward.
Sure. So, sir, you know that the industry is in the transition phase, right? The energy domain is being talked about. It's a very hot topic of today. And we are seeing a lot of changes happening in the industry, especially in the solar power energy. The transitions are being compared to various generation methods of energy, right? There is wind, there is solar, and other methods to generate energy. And it is becoming quite competitive. So there are distraction features and many distinct opportunities that are coming up your way. So how can we actually primarily talk about the cost factor involved in the solar PV manufacturing and deployment? Because these are the factors which actually associate the industry and make a differentiation point when it comes to the cost. So can you please highlight such things for us?
Thank you. Energy and energy transition are driving the world, and they will continue to do so. What is important is that for a country like India, and actually for most parts of the world, what is also important is that this energy transition is affordable, is responsible, and sustainable. Now, with that, if you look at it, we were consuming energy mostly from fossil fuels and some other means like nuclear, hydro, etc., but predominantly fossil fuels. What is now happening in this energy transition, if I describe, most of the energy requirement will get converted to electricity. And the electrification will be led, and the energy transition will be led by greening of this electrification. That, in essence, is the energy transition story. In this, there are several sectors. The way we consume electricity, we have residential, we have commercial, industrial, mobility, be it marine, be it locomotive, be it on-road, etc. When we look at each one of them, what is happening is even our cooking applications are going more run by electricity. Now, if they are going to be run by electricity continues to be from legacy fuels, that is not being responsible. It may be affordable, but in the long run, the nature, the affordability and sustainability come into play. And that is where we will need to generate electricity through renewable means, which is essentially solar, wind, geothermal, and a few others. And there are sectors, even the sectors like manufacturing, cement, steel, etc., which are called hard to abate, okay, which are very difficult to abate. There also, the electricity use will go up, be it in smelters, kilns, etc. And that electricity has to come from a renewable source. Now, coming to renewable sources, solar continues to be the most competitive. It has come down, I think, almost like a Moore's law from 350 USD per megawatt hour to now, just a year and a half back, it was 36. It rose to about 54.60 because of the price increase, but still is far below any thermal, hydro or nuclear power. So I would say what drives it is the ease of solar deployment is abundance of radiation across the globe, and country like India is most blessed with that, followed by ease of deployment. And third is that the carbon footprint of manufacturing solar panels is among the lowest on a life cycle basis. So to me, this is what will drive it further. When I'm asked a question about, do you think solar prices will go down further? Yes, they will, because of a couple of reasons. Technological advancements in material science, that is material selection, the way we derive, we drive the electrons to generate electricity, solar cell efficiency per square meter of energy generated, followed by also a lot of other things, which is digitization of the grid, etc., solving intermittency issues. So my guess is that solar power prices, where they are, generated power, can easily go down in the next 4 or 5 years by half. So in essence, solar will continue to be the cheapest source of renewable energy in the coming decades.
Okay. Definitely, we are looking forward for such changes to happen soon. And now we know that solar PV is attaining that goals in India, where we are targeting that how we can generate more power, right, more energy. And the target of net zero is also there by 2070. So, like 50% power generation is renewable. By 2030, we have to attain it, right, because of the sustainability goals and all the major changes happening. So domestic manufacturing is expected to play a vital role in India, where we want to manufacture everything in-house in India. And mostly right now, if we see in solar, the imports are being coming from China, the products are coming from China. And there are a lot of schemes that the government has played in PLI scheme, and PLI plan is there. High efficiency solar PVs are there. So to increase that kind of domestic ability, so what is your view that what we can attain in the coming manufacturing that we are doing, and how to accelerate that domestic power that we have in India?
Okay, a lot of questions, but let me go sequence-wise. So yes, deployment in India, you rightly said, we have a committed goal, Honorable Prime Minister's commitment to the word in COP20 last year was about last year was about Panchamrit, and one of them you mentioned net zero by 2070. Another one of those pillars, those Amrit Gunds, happens to be 50% renewable energy by 2030. So there are two challenges. One is, as the economy grows, the GDP grows, prosperity grows, consumerism grows, and manufacturing grows, the country's electricity requirement will become 2.5 times. Now, all new capacities have to be taken care through renewable, and also the legacy part has to be supplemented with renewable, which poses a challenge of doing 500 gigawatts to 340 gigawatt come of solar, which means if today we are at round about 100, we need to have an accelerated pace of about 35 to 40 gigawatt per annum compared to 12 to 14 that we have been doing. So essentially, we have a very clear roadmap ahead. But what is important is that we don't import energy. And that is why I say domestic manufacturing. When we say Atmanirbhar Bharat is one aspect. There is also Swavlamban when we say energy self-sufficiency. Today, 82% of the crude is imported. And if we deploy solar, which is going to be 80% of renewable, also by importing cheap Chinese modules or any imports, we are essentially, in fact, doing worse. We are importing energy for 20 years. These modules generate for 27 years. We are losing every gigawatt that we import. We lose out about 2,500 crore rupees as foreign exchange, 1,000 crore rupees of revenue loss, and job loss of more than 1,000 people per gigawatt that we import. That's the kind of damage that we do to the economy and to the socio-economic infrastructure. The way out, as you rightly mentioned, is government has been very conscious of balancing both the requirement of rollout as well as the domestic manufacturing. So as you are aware, till 2022 March, there was zero duty on Chinese modules, which meant Indian manufacturers had no say. We were literally running, most of the people were running at 30% nameplate capacity or even less. And some of them even went to NPAs, NCLTs, etc. However, starting last year, the government created an ecosystem for domestic manufacturing. Now, any ecosystem for domestic manufacturing is a triad. It's a triangle. One is assured and consistent demand, which I spoke about previously. I think in India, once we get down to doing more of residential, rooftop, and CNI, that consistency will come in further. The second part is incentives, which is in the form of capital subsidies, if not capital subsidy, PLI, which will be paid in 5 tranches after commissioning. It could be in the form of cheaper financing, infrastructure status, a lower cost of power, etc., etc. And the third aspect is what we call barriers, disincentives, or in any country, be it steel or any other manufacturing, you need a time period whereby there are both fiscal and non-fiscal barriers. Fiscal barrier in the form of higher custom duties, etc. Non-fiscal barrier is like an ALMM, which is saying mandating domestic manufacturing of quality modules, usage of them. So I think the policy consistency has to be there. And we're going to see, we are already seeing a sunrise sector coming up. But more importantly, India can become the hub for exports also. The world is moving to China plus one, and in many cases, one plus China. India has an opportunity to actually supply 30 to 50 gigawatts of solar modules to countries wherever deployment is happening. And I think combined with India's own requirement, we are clearly looking at this industry growing from 12 gigawatt, currently nameplate manufacturing is 38 gigawatt, moving to 100 gigawatt in the next 24 to 36 months. That's the runway I'm clearly seeing.
Yeah, so definitely, so there's a talk about domestic manufacturing that's happening, so to have adequate local market supply, and hence there is a power to be going for the unrestricted imports for a few years. So what is your position in the same? I just wanted to understand that.
My position is very simple. Agnostic of being the prime manufacturer in the country, we have a social responsibility towards the country. And as I said, importing energy is the worst thing that we can do for the reasons I mentioned before. However, there is what has happened is because of this continuous reliance on Chinese imports, the way some of the developers, even though they were clearly mandated in tenders to use Indian modules, decided to quote basis the 10 to 12-year falling prices and based on Chinese prices. Now that they are stuck and some vested interests they are calling about, domestic manufacturing capacity is not adequate to address the local demand. I always believe in that famous phrase in Hindi which says, "Pratyaksh ko praman ki kya avashyakta hai." So facts should talk about more than, what we call intuitive or views. Now, India has a nameplate capacity of 38 gigawatt as on 31st March. Take out 11 gigawatt of, even if you take out 11 gigawatt of low, I wouldn't say low efficiency, but low wattage modules below 350 watt peak, that leaves 27. Out of 27 gigawatt, knock out another 3, which is for captive usage by one of the manufacturers. That leaves 24. Take out another 2.5 for exports, which happened last year, which should have been much more. It leaves you with 21. Out of 21 gigawatt, how come the country which deployed only 14 gigawatts, can anybody say that when you add only 12 to 14 gigawatt year and you already have capacity at 21 gigawatt, even if you manufacture at 70% capacity, that is more than enough. So my view is very clear. Rome was not built in a day. Domestic manufacturers have ramped up capacity from 13 to 38 in less than 18 months, and that is getting ramped to 100 gigawatt. Time has come now for everyone to realize domestic modules and their deployment is the only way out for energy self-sufficiency and the best way to move ahead.
Definitely, sir. So now, as we are into this rapid pace of growing industry in solar PV, what is actually Waaree's present portfolio and capacity, and how do you ensure that it stays ahead in terms of the production capacity? Can you please elaborate in any recent expansions or investments as a group that you have made in terms of also the quality control and efficiency, which matters the most? How do you measure the steps taken at Waaree Group to maintain consistent production standards across the manufacturing facility?
Okay. Waaree is being cited as one of the, with all humility, I can say, is being cited as one of in manufacturing industry as an example of good. So let me elaborate on that. We were manufacturing 1 gigawatt, less than 1 gigawatt, with a nameplate capacity of 2 gigawatt 20 months back. Today, as we speak, we have ramped up capacity to 12 gigawatt, which is 6 times of what it was. And out of that 12 gigawatt, 9 gigawatt is already commissioned, 3 gigawatt is under commissioning. So by next quarter, that will also come on stream. What is more important in manufacturing is the mention about energy. We have largest cell manufacturing in the largest module manufacturer. 5.4 gigawatt of cell manufacturing capacity is coming up and will commission in the last quarter of this financial year. Now, besides this, on the product side, we are manufacturing the highest wattage module in the country. We compare with the best in the world, and all varieties, be it plain vanilla modules, glass to glass, back to back, black modules, every variety that you can speak of. We supply to some of the most marquee developers across the globe, including USA, Europe. We have the highest bankability with the financial institutions in the world. One company, Bloomberg, tier 1 manufacturer to talk to. But Indian agencies and laboratories like PVL, which you would have seen the latest reports, rate Waaree very high in terms of not only quality, but consistency in delivery of quality. In-house, we are very conscious of quality. The entire manufacturing is based around the quality delivery. We have worked with certain top of the line consultants to further smoothen it. More importantly, you can see the intent. We are the only company which has an NABL accredited laboratory inside the factory to not only continue to improve, test, but make progressive improvements on the fly. So those are some of the things that we are doing. In terms of delivery to customers, we are very clear. This is a product, whatever timeline we give, 4 to 6 weeks, we adhere that. And there has been no issues, at least in the last 18 to 20 months after the supply chain disruption that happened due to shipping lines, etc., where we have not had a single case of delayed deliveries. That's what I can tell you.
That's quite appreciable. And also now coming to the challenges of the industry where
and may I add that
so give me a second.
what was in the news that we have, that we have won the PLI, that we have been granted the PLI tender for 6 gigawatts of further backward integration, which is from polysilicon as material to ingot, cell and modules. And that is a timeline of 12 gigawatt that we already have, and 5.5 gigawatt. We'll also have another 6 gigawatt of wafers, cells, and modules. So that will take the total capacity close to 20 gigawatt, the largest outside China.
That's really great, sir. Congratulations on the same. So
Thank
now, actually, I wanted to address the challenges that we have in the industry where we have a lack of infrastructure and the skilled workforces, which goes into the domestic manufacturing industry of solar parts. So are there any specific initiatives or collaborations aimed at improving these aspects? And what are the present technologies, if I talk about, and the trends that are shaping the solar PV space? And how are you planning as a group to meet and give the better customer experience, including the timely deliveries that you just talked about?
Okay. So if you look at the solar industry, the cycle of change due to technology has been quite rapid. At least in the last decade, if you see, there have been 4 cycles of changes, and this will get further expedited. And it is our duty as manufacturers, as technology providers, to serve our customer what is latest, high efficiency, and best for those segments. So keeping in spirit of that, India, which was about 20 months ago, predominantly poly modules, not only we, but most of the people have now transitioned to completely high wattage mono PERC modules, both with glass to glass and only one side. The second part of it is what is happening in the world is from mono PERC, it is going to N-type to TOPCon, and there is HJT, perovskites, etc. I can assure you that while we have to manufacture what the customers want, but we keep engaging with all the technologies. Like 2 years back also, we were working with HJT and supplying to export markets. Similarly, all our lines that are coming up are capable of high wattage modules going up to 740 watt and even up 800 watt plus, besides producing N-type and TOPCon. So that's the transition that we are very mindful of. And when we buy equipment, we ensure that we are future-proofing them for at least 2 to 3 years. That's the crystal ball gazing we can do. Continue to work with new technologies, collaborate with technology partners, research institutions across the globe. In terms of delivery of quality, results speak for them, not only the order books, but also the fact that customers are aware that Waaree modules have the highest bankability. They are also backed, they are also reinsured by Munich Re. So customers know when they are buying a Waaree module, they can be assured of service, quality, and generation for at least for the life cycle of 29 years plus.
That's quite an achievement. And coming to the trends that we just discussed, the numbers that we just shared. So now I just really want to understand what is the future and where we are going in terms of energy generation in India. And what are the key steps that industry stakeholders, including government, manufacturers, and investors, have to overcome to unlock the full potential of these challenges that we face in the solar power generation in the country? Any thoughts on how these evolving business models and how they are going to play out in the coming times?
Very pertinent point and interesting. So there are 3 challenges. One is what we call generation and its integration. Second is the financing, and third is the broad basing of if I can say, the broad basing of the entire generation aspect. So let me talk about the broad basing first. India has been traditionally, so when the Jawaharlal Nehru solar mission was announced a decade ago, there was supposed to be both focus on utility scale, which is like putting up large power plants, equivalent of that, and also distributed generation. Solar is most powerful when it is used as a distributed generation. It is actually something that is a good example of prosumer. You are a producer and a consumer also. However, India has lagged behind in the distributed generation. So I think that is where, both in residential, where I think the debate is more around subsidies. Subsidies were okay when solar generation used to cost 14 to 18 rupees a unit, not when it is lower than the electricity tariff. Now at 3 rupees, 3 rupee 20 paisa in residential areas, 4 rupees, it is definitely lower than the electricity tariff. So one is the rooftop of residences. The second is commercial institutions. Third is, now that the net zero goals and the social and the sustainability indexes of most corporates are making them look out for what I call C&I business, which is throwing up very good business models, even around merchant power. In C&I business, you have the traditional on-site PPA models, which could be a cell phone. But in India now, I can see the leasing model, the OPEX model, the on-site PPAs, and the private fire PPAs also growing. But more importantly, I'm seeing business evolving into off-site models, off-site PPAs, which can be both physical and what I call financial or virtual PPAs, where there is no physical transmission, but electricity price is like set under a CFD, which is a contract for differences. The C&I consumer also in this case is protected against long-term fluctuations. So I think the business models will evolve. And now the world and India both are trying to address the hard to abate sectors, which is what I mentioned: petrochemicals, fertilizers, steel, cement, etc., to be globally competitive and now that the carbon taxes are also kicking in, we know the EU frenzy that has happened, and their green hydrogen and green ammonia will play a major role. I think India, the way it is taking leadership, and if we implement it well, India will be the next powerhouse in the new energy era. And I think that has to be driven by consistent. Our policies are very good when they are made. There is, I think, a dichotomy in implementation because the states have a role to play in implementation. There are differences there. So synergizing them and all stakeholders working together, I see this energy transition as a huge opportunity. As they say, in adversity lies an opportunity. In India becoming in India becoming the leader in new energy business, not only within India, but also being an export hub for that.
Thank you for addressing this, sir. And now I really would like to ask you for an advice for people who want to enter the solar industry to set up such kind of institutions and move further in this domain.
Very interesting. So when I look at solar industry, as I mentioned, rooftop CNI. So let's leave the part of the generators, which is a large projects, etc. So we have just covered less than 5% of the rooftop potential in the country. So I always look at India. Mahatma Gandhi said India is a land of small businessmen, banyas as it was called. And I think there is tremendous potential in that. Waaree already has a huge franchisee business. We have 1,400 points of presence. We are getting continued interest with people who want to become part of energy transition and make it a business. So you get trained, you get all the material, you get a showroom, and then you have people who not only provide solar panels, but actually they are doing a engineered solution. So site-specific engineered solution done by the best engineering practices, deployment, then also O&M, because this is something that requires continuous maintenance, monitoring. So we are setting up a NOC kind of a thing to monitor and give advice to customers as to what, etc., needs to be done. So to answer your question, how does one enter the solar business? One is becoming an entrepreneur to do this. Second part is that there are lots of technicians. We have a program called Waaree Expert, where we intend to enroll about 50,000 electricians. Already it is on, where they actually supplement their income. Not only electricians, people who deploy cameras, who come for gas meters, etc. Anybody who has access to consumers can become part of it and supplement their income. We have people who are earning 30 to 50,000 more per month by doing what they were doing, but in a better manner. So this is about the mass population. If you are hinting at how to enter manufacturing industry, I think that's a pretty complex subject, and everybody has to take their call. It is a growing industry, but it is also an industry that requires depth of years to get the bankability, customer confidence, etc. But yes, a growing industry, and I don't confine myself to solar energy. The new energy segment and its domain is the biggest growth engine for employment and social upward mobility. That's what I look at it.
Thank you so much, sir, for addressing all the questions and giving us such breakthrough answers that we received from you today. So thank you so much for being with us today.
It is always a pleasure, and I would welcome any questions through your forum on LinkedIn. Always I'm delighted to get questions and answer them. And that's the best way to propagate the new energy that India can take leadership in. Thank you.